Alright, so I am back from winter break. Everything is going pretty well, to be honest. The one thing I did want to talk about in a video, though, is something that I've been working on over winter break that is specifically actually a tool for a video that I've been writing. So for those of you who don't know, which to be honest I haven't really said much about this except to my friends and family, this is a rough resolution guesstimation software that basically counts the actual pixels, but over time is kind of growing into a much larger project than I kind of anticipated, which is what's been taking so long to get this next video out, which is an Xbox Series S review. Now I kind of wanted to talk about a couple different things, mostly the fact like what does it do, how am I writing it or how have I written it, and how could I potentially accelerate it in the future, which is something that's kind of interesting. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a college student. I am a year 3, technically a sophomore, at Purdue University Northwest, which is in Indiana. Basically, what I'm doing there is computer engineering. I have taken several actual programming courses, but unfortunately I haven't passed some of the classes yet that would allow me to take the actual hardware courses, which is what I'm actually waiting to get into. So the only thing I've really been able to do for school and in my free time lately has been programming, which is the only thing they'll kind of let me do right now, which is understandable. I'm not asking for any sympathy or anything, it's just how it is. However, in the time since, I've actually kind of grown to like programming a lot. It's kind of interesting how you're really just setting ones and zeros in a very particular order, and you're getting out a very complex output, or you could potentially get very complex outputs with very complex inputs, which is to me is just kind of mind-boggling, the amount of data that you could potentially be shuffling at any given time. But in my very short kind of software career, I actually started on Java back in high school. To be honest, I didn't really like it that much, but once I got into C++ is when I really started to enjoy it a lot more. For whatever reason, I'm taking a class on Java right now, and I don't find it difficult. I don't find it it's not hard to program in Java, it's just another programming language at the end of the day, but the way that it's structured to me is just kind of repetitive, so it's not my preferred language of choice. Obviously, it's not a bad language, it's just I prefer different things. At the end of the day, C++ is actually much closer to the metal than something like Java or Python. I actually had a couple people complaining to me in my Calc 2 class the other day about how Python should be the only programming language that we use. I have some disagreements with that. Not really going to get into that too much in this video because I'm sure most of you guys can understand the fallacy in that argument. Kind of getting back on track, I started developing this tool called Belgorod, which is just named after the project that it's kind of attached to. For those of you who don't know, I name all my Proceu tech projects after battles of World War II from the Eastern Front. So stuff like Stalingrad, Kursk, Vistula Oder. Trying to think of other ones off the top of my head, but to be honest, I haven't really thought too much about it since I was back in high school, which has been 3 years now. So, but anyways, that's kind of what it's attached to, is this project called Belgorod, which probably way butchering that name because I don't speak Russian. This software that I started has only been created about maybe 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and it's already kind of bloomed into something that is, I think, to me is more useful than I think a lot of people realize, and has a lot more potential because it allows you to graph the resolution of things over time, which is, I'll put some graphs up on screen right now, which are super basic prototypes that I've generated from it, but either way, I think it's actually a pretty decent tool. It's obviously not 100%. It's not going to give you 100% accurate resolution counts, and I've discovered several reasons why that may or may not be. The main reason is because right now, the only medium that I have available to me is H.264 encoded footage. In order to get actual raw lossless footage, I would need to use something like OBS, which for whatever reason on my system just doesn't work properly. I'll record something for literally 30 seconds and it'll show up on my hard drive, and then when I click on it, it'll say this video is corrupted. No idea what's going on there. I've tried to fix it several times. For whatever reason, I just can't get lossless or raw footage, because H.264 kind of destroys image quality at a pixel level, which is what you need to measure when you're actually measuring resolution. So I figured out a way to kind of avoid that. I figured out a way to figure out if a pixel is interpolated or not, and then from there it will allow you to say, okay, if it's interpolated, great, we'll pass through and we will count this as technically part of the last pixel because it's interpolated. But if it's just the same color and it's bigger than the past pixel sizes, then it's just probably the same colored pixel, but it's definitely definitely a separate pixel. So I figured out a way to kind of determine between the two, and it actually works relatively well from my experience, and I can test this by putting in this input footage and then developing these graphs which coincide with when like explosions go up on screen, or when there's an enemy in your face and suddenly the resolution has to drop, or there's a bunch of enemies in the distance. Basically, if you plug in any sort of game that has a dynamic resolution to it, you will notice that there are drops at points which may or may not be 100% accurate, but are pretty rough guesstimates, which for me is kind of huge in helping us determine, hey, how are these games running and how are these games achieving this kind of performance? Now, what's kind of funny is, if you remember about a couple of months ago maybe, I made an AVX video which made me come across as a huge proponent of the feature. Obviously, I think that it's useful for certain niche workloads, but once again, like from that video, not everyone is an AVX programmer. If you're a C++ programmer, you're not automatically an AVX programmer. You have to go in and basically do your own research, and it's like learning something else within C++. Now, I actually tried to incorporate AVX into my project through just using MM512 registers, or excuse me, __ M512 registers. I don't know why I keep getting the two confused. I go in through there and I load vertices, or not verts, vec3fs, which are like the little pixel data type used by OpenCV, which is what I'm using to basically interface between these videos and the actual software. So I'm using OpenCV, which is open source from like Intel and a couple other big computing companies. But by default, it doesn't have AVX acceleration that I was able to find. I actually looked through a couple of the files and I wasn't able to see AVX 512 instructions. I found SSE instructions, which is using like the _ M128, which is what I ended up actually reverting to using from AVX 512 in my own program in Belgorod, because AVX 512 broke the program. I'm still not 100% sure what was going on, but it just was spitting out tons of garbage values, so something was going on. If you're interested in this, let me know in the comments. I could potentially release this to the public, let you guys get a hold of this, and maybe even you guys could critique it, tell me what you think I could improve on, maybe even include your own recommendations for actual code. I'm totally open to sharing this with you guys as long as it's not like 100% final code, because I don't think any project is ever really 100% final. It's always evolving and always growing. So I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest, because I've been working on this for a couple weeks and I'm starting to kind of see some basic fruits of my labor in this. And I just kind of wanted to share this with you guys just to show you, hey, this is what's been taking so long in that Xbox Series S review. Don't worry, it is coming. I just need to figure out a way to get higher quality recordings of the actual gameplay and the actual games on the Xbox, so I can actually evaluate the resolution and make recommendations for, hey, maybe you may or may not want to use this on a 4K TV, maybe you may or may not want to use it on a 1440p monitor or something, that kind of stuff. So I'm also downloading that Matrix game. I'm not 100% sure what it's called, but it's the Unreal Engine 5 experience one. So I'm kind of excited to sit down and look at that because it looked very interesting. I'm excited to see how it runs, excited to see the resolution, excited to actually use this tool to determine the resolution of the frames. But that's really all I wanted to say on the matter, and at the end of the day, if you guys did enjoy, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll be notified about all our future uploads. But that's really all I wanted to say, and I wanted to thank you guys again for watching. I will see you guys all in that Xbox Series S review.